Live from downtown Vancouver at the Vancouver Film School campus, it's time for EP Live. Hey, welcome to EPN. My name is Victor Lucas, and we bring you the latest in everything cool not every single day, although we have been putting out content almost every single day these days. It is that time of year, the Game Avalanche, I like to call it, and we've got a bunch of reviews in today's episode. I hope some of you have been able to watch the review of Luigi's Mansion 3 that I did with Johnny Millennium. So this is a very big Monday, and we're actually talking about something very cool. We're partnering up with Extra Life, and we're going to tell you all about that very soon. But let's get started with your rundown, which is dedicated to Joel Ruiz, who says, you guys, Vic and Johnny, watch the Luigi's Mansion 3 review, are great together. I like it when you don't quite agree. Just let loose, man. Siskel and Ebert style. Well, I created reviews on the run in the model of Siskel and Ebert, so you got that one. Joel Ruiz, let's get started with your rundown. Sony's big PlayStation exclusive Death Stranding isn't going to be a PlayStation exclusive after all. Developer Kojima Productions has announced that the game will be coming to the PC in summer 2020 after its timed exclusive release on the PS4 next week. There were hints that the game would get a PC version when it was first announced back in 2016, but this is the first official confirmation. No other details about the port have been revealed, but don't be surprised if the PC port looks even better than the PS4 or PS4 Pro version if you have the right hardware. I am very much looking forward to sinking lots of time into Death Stranding. I haven't got the code yet, but that's okay. I've been reviewing a lot of stuff. But I am very, very psyched to see what Kojima and his team have been up to. The game is very mysterious, purposefully so, I believe. But I've heard murmurs that there's something really, really remarkable about this title. I'm not surprised that Sony isn't footing the bill for the whole thing or purchasing Kojima Productions and bringing them into the fold. These are very, very expensive decisions. Also, if you guys recall, Andrew House was a part of the big announcement that Sony was working with Kojima Productions back in, 2017 or something, 2016, after the fallout with Konami. And then Andrew House left PlayStation. There's been a lot of changes at Sony and PlayStation, and there's also been some changes at Kojima Productions over this time as well. It's not easy to start a studio and create a brand new original game and also publish it and launch it. So if this game turns out to be incredible, and I think we all hope that it is, it will be a remarkable achievement and presumably one that's going to lead to potential sequels if this is sort of hitting the marks that everybody wants it to hit. Now, it is a little troubling that PlayStation isn't taking this in as an exclusive. That does kind of suggest that they thought maybe this isn't right in our portfolio, which is a little weird, I would hazard to guess that if Sony had the ability to purchase the rights to Metal Gear Solid and make it part of their portfolio, they probably would do that as long as Kojima was a part of that equation. But yeah, so now I'm more curious than ever to get my hands on Death Stranding, but I hope it's amazing. Now, Microsoft wants to make it easier for players to get the next Xbox console. They've announced that their upcoming console, codenamed Project Scarlet, will be available as an upgrade through their Xbox All Access subscription service. Right now, Xbox All Access gives users an Xbox One along with access to a library of games through Xbox Game Pass. And when Project Scarlet launches next year, users will be able to upgrade to the new console as long as they've been a subscriber for at least 18 months. Microsoft hasn't revealed how much the console will cost if you go to the store and buy it up front. More details will come in before it launches in holiday 2020. It's probably going to be about $400 to $500 US, probably tipping more in the $500 range. What is interesting is that there are rumors that Sony's going to launch with two versions of their machine, like a Pro version and a regular version. So I wonder if Xbox will do that as well, like we just saw with the S and the X. So yeah, we're going to see a lot of information, and certainly this subscription service where you get hardware is kind of an onboard to the inevitable future where hardware is just an ingredient that's removed from that equation, and you'll be able to play all this software wherever a screen may be in front of you, which I think is what xCloud is all about and what Microsoft is kind of inching towards with its Game Pass and its xCloud and its Xbox Live services. I'm sure they're wanting to get it all into probably a tasty $10 a month US kind of account, and you'll be able to get all of that stuff. But that's not going to be for a while. They've got a new console to sell us next year. Getting fired up for all of this, though. I think it's going to be exciting to see the footage that's going to be achievable with some of the software, really kind of underlining the value of 4K gaming, I think, for the first time. I think it's been pretty easy to look at 1080p footage on traditional, PlayStation 4s and traditional Xboxes and certainly the Switch as well and say, well, that looks good enough to me. But I think next year, 4K gaming on console at home becomes the real deal, and I'm excited about that. Now, Disney wants to make one of their biggest franchises seaworthy once again. A reboot of the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise is on the way. Variety reports that the studio and producer Jerry Bruckheimer have hired Chernobyl creator Craig Mazin to craft a brand new story following previous reboot attempts from other writers. The last film, Dead Men Tell No Tales, was released in 2017 but failed to live up to box office expectations, so it's no surprise that Disney wants to set the franchise on a new course. It's unclear what future, if any, that might leave for franchise hero Captain Jack Sparrow, played by Johnny Depp. I love Johnny Depp in this role, but I've hated almost every one of the movies. They've all been so boring. I like the first movie. I thought the second movie had some unbelievably cool special effects and kind of progressed the story along a bit. But then it just they went crazy. They lost their minds with those movies, and they added a million characters, and you cared about none of them. And it was like they just parachuted Johnny Depp in to kind of whip up some kind of weird frenzy, and you didn't believe any of it. And they lost a lot of money, and they just became stupid. They became these big vehicles, I think, that, instead of ships on the water, Disney just saw giant piles of money floating around, and they would throw all kinds of famous actors at these things, and they were bad. And it was exhausting going to see those movies and reviewing them, and they were just bad. But through it all, I think Johnny Depp is a pretty unbelievably good, fun performer. He just has to have the right material, and he has to be in the right state of mind, because I think he has also gone a little bit crazy with all of the Pirates of the Caribbean money that he's had. Hopefully, a lot of the controversy in his life gets cleaned up, and he remains a part of this, because it would be very weird to see anybody else be Captain Jack Sparrow if they put that character back into these movies. And I don't know how you make a Pirates of the Caribbean movie without Captain Jack Sparrow. Has anybody been to Disneyland recently? They've retrofitted all of the, Captain Jack sort of moment. Like Johnny Depp and his voice is all over the theme park. And that's what it's all based on, and that's what Disney wants you to go and see these movies, so that you'll go to the Pirates of the Caribbean ride, which is still one of the best rides at the park. It'd be so weird if Johnny Depp wasn't a part of it, but if he isn't, it's because of the BS that he's been pulling. All right, the new TV series Batwoman might be polarizing audiences, but that doesn't mean the network isn't satisfied. The CW has given a full season order to the new Arrowverse show, meaning it will get a full 22 episodes this season. We're still waiting to find out if it will be renewed for a second season, although the full season pickup is a pretty good sign. Batwoman is the fifth series set in the shared Arrowverse, and the network is rumored to be developing several more. We might get hints about what's to come in the Crisis on Infinite Earth crossover event, which hits the airwaves in December. And one of the big sort of rumors that's just starting to circulate as of today is that CW and Greg Berlanti and his team and DC Comics are all working on a Superman and Lois Lane show starring Tyler Hoechlin as Superman, which kind of puts the nail in the coffin that we'll ever see Henry Cavill in the super suit again, I think, or at least for a long time. Maybe they're thinking Henry Cavill comes back as like a Kingdom Come Superman or something like that. Personally, I think they should just hire Brandon Routh again and let him play a wiser, older, more mature Superman on the big screen if they ever get the Justice League stuff sort of churning back up again. Excited about a Superman show, and I am behind on Batwoman, but I am going to watch, I think the fourth episode airs this week, right? I think they've done 2, 3, and 4 and airs this week, so I'll probably do another a recap review of a few episodes after I've watched them. But I think the CW, they're losing Arrow. They need a dark show that's going to kind of slot in with the other stuff. They've got Supergirl. They've got Legends of Tomorrow, which is kind of a little bit more cartoony. Supergirl's a little bit lighter. The Flash is super super bright and hopeful. And they can't really change the tones of those shows too much, otherwise they're going to alienate a lot of the fan base. So I think they kind of need to have a darker show that sort of fits alongside in there. Hopefully, Batwoman continues to grow and improve. Like a lot of these shows, they're roller coaster rides. You never know. You don't get excellent episodes every single time, but if you give these shows enough time to kind of find their way, they get better. So hopefully it does get better. I'll watch some more episodes and I'll let you guys know what I think very soon. That's going to do it for our rundown today. Thank you for watching. Now let's take a look back at this day and everything cool. Welcome to This Day and Everything Cool for October 28th. On this day in 2008, a whole new kind of RPG emerged from the vault. Bethesda's Softworks released Fallout 3 on the PlayStation 3, Xbox 360, and PC, thrusting players into a vast first-person radioactive wasteland. The first two Fallout games had been made by another studio, Interplay Entertainment, and were more traditional top-down RPGs. Bethesda bought the rights to the franchise in 2003 when Interplay declared bankruptcy, and they started developing the new game from scratch. At that point, Bethesda was best known for creating the Elder Scrolls games, which unlike most RPGs, used a first-person perspective, and for Fallout 3, they stuck with the same formula. Their goal was to reimagine the Fallout universe in this new perspective, but keep the same tone and feel, which forced them to come up with several cool new ideas. For starters, Fallout 3 uses the VATS shooting system, where players can pause the gameplay and take aim at specific points on their opponents, which felt like a cool blend between a first-person shooter and a tactical RPG. Fallout 3 also doubled down on the open-ended gameplay of its predecessors. Players had more freedom than ever before to shape the outcome of the story, with every character interaction and decision you make along the way having a lasting impact. Fallout 3 became one of the biggest games of the year and has arguably surpassed The Elder Scrolls as Bethesda's most prominent franchise. They followed it up with several sequels, the latest, Fallout 76, landing 10 years later. I was just about to type, great to see everybody in the chat, but I can say that because I'm streaming. It's live streaming. We're live! Thank you for tuning in to EP Live. We've got a very fun show in progress right here. My old buddy Matt Levitan is joining us right now via the internets. And Matt and I go way back, I think about almost 25 years, right?
Wow, yes. I think it is something like that. Definitely mid to late 90s.
We were both 15, and we had a show in high school.
Yes.
That's the story, right?
Yeah, it was either the Intellivision or the ColecoVision. I forget what we were reviewing back then.
So Matt had a long, if you've been watching EP for a while, we had Matt on as much as we possibly could because he represented PlayStation, and he ran the marketing department of PlayStation in Canada. But you generally, and I'm making a general statement here, so please, no marketing people get back at me and be angry about this at all. But generally, when you talk to marketing and PR people, they play, but they're not obsessive about the games like Matt Levitan was. So it was always really wonderful to talk to Matt because it wasn't just like he was trying to sell you a game. He was like, I've been playing this and this and this, and I'm obsessed with this. We're going to talk about what we're doing together this week. But Matt, what is your favorite game of all time and why?
Yeah, it's like picking my favorite child. Although I think I do have a favorite child, but I won't say who that is on the air.
Okay.
If I have to pick one, I'm going to say The Last of Us.
Yeah.
Just because I thought it was the perfect blend of incredible story, brilliant voice acting, great gameplay. I mean, it hooked me from start to finish. So I guess I have to say that, which is why I've already pre-ordered the collector's edition, and I'm a little sad about the delay, but I'll be okay with it. It's fine. May 29th, I'm in.
That's awesome. Well, the fact that he mentioned he's pre-ordered the game should give you an indication that Matt is no longer at PlayStation, and that must just hit you right there that you have to pre-order some of the games sometimes.
Oh, it hurts. When I worked at Sony, I would get a box every Tuesday with every game, first and third party. And I would take it home, and it was like every Tuesday was Christmas. And now I have to go into, EV or Best Buy and be like, I don't know, $80. It's really expensive. Do I really need it day one? So it's changed. My life has changed.
Well, now we've got all these subscription services that are out there, and you're going to be able to, like Xbox Game Pass, you could be playing The Outer Worlds right now, which is it's mind-blowing. It's one of these things. But what Matt did a few years ago is he made a life change, and he and his family moved out to the West Coast. You live in a city called Kelowna in British Columbia, and you started up your own agency. and you've been working with all kinds of cool clients.
Yeah, I did. It's one of the things that was always the toughest part of working in a big company is work-life balance. And my kids were getting older, and I wasn't spending a lot of time with them. So we did move out to BC, which is, as you know, stands for the best coast. It really is amazing out here. And I wanted to still stay in the industry. I obviously love gaming and wanted to stay, a part of it in any way I could. So I started this little consulting firm, ad agency, whatever you want to call it.
Yep.
It's called Press Start Marketing, and it's been really successful for the last 2 years. And I have some really fun gaming clients, of which Extra Life is one. So I'm trying to have my cake and eat it too. It's not easy.
That is awesome. Well, we're going to talk about Extra Life here in a second, but this is interesting because traditionally I like to put a lot of people that make video games or are sort of a part of the creative process behind the scenes on getting a lot of interesting work out to us. And oftentimes we don't really discuss the fact that in games there's lots and lots of jobs that help to get these games into people's hands. And you were a big ingredient in that and continue to be a big ingredient in that. And I think that that's something that people should sort of appreciate if they're looking for ways to get into the business. And one thing that I will say from the press side is that I value the fact that somebody could be so committed to the medium like you have been and are. It just made working together that much better. And it made the content that we would make together, whether it was you on camera for us or somebody that you facilitated from PlayStation for us to interview. And I appreciated that so much. So I just want to say that, if you are a person in sort of the marketing or PR kind of bent and you love games and you want to get into the games industry, this is a man that you should model your career after.
I
You
don't
can learn
know.
a lot from this guy.
That's I don't know if you want to go that far, but I certainly, I've been a gamer my whole life. I think you kind of have maybe one or two more E3s than I do. I've been at, I think, 21 of them. I think you might have one or two more under your belt, but every year I would go, and every year I would be excited because I would want to see all the new software. I'd want to be there for the hardware announcements. I loved how the industry was constantly changing and innovating and bringing new technologies and new software to market. And I just love sitting down in front of a console or with a handheld or on my phone or wherever it may be and playing something. And it's been such a big part of my life that I knew I had to stay in it in some way. So it was always great talking to you because it was just like a couple of guys talking about their favorite games. It never work.
We are geeks for this in the purest sense, but you see what I mean, right? This is a guy that knows, the intricacies of sort of retailer relationships and ad campaigns and all that stuff, but also just wants to get a big box of games and go home and play all these things, which is a great dichotomy. I like that. Okay, so and here's the cool thing is Matt is actually going to be my guest co-host on Friday's show, so we can dive a little bit into our shared history, and maybe we'll find some clips of us talking over the years. Watch as our hair gets grayer and grayer, which is going to be fun for everybody.
Wrinkles under my eyes.
But we're doing some fun things this week. You are representing Extra Life, and we have got a special show that we're putting together, a special episode of EP Live on Saturday. Why don't you break it down? Pitch me on what I'm doing on Saturday.
I'm not sure if you know what you've committed to. We're going to have a 2-hour stream live from the Vancouver Film School Cafe. So right where you're sitting right now is where we're going to host it. And we're going to have some super exciting guests. We'll have Dana Sessions from the Coalition, who's going to be there to talk about Gears 5 and the development. We're going to have a chance to play the game with him. Also going to have William Cho from EA, who's going to be there to talk a little bit about NHL 20.
That's Will Ho.
Will Ho.
Yep.
What did I say?
You called him Cho. Will Ho.
My apologies.
No problem.
No relation to Margaret Cho. And then last but I'm about to mess up a name on a really big scale right now. So Steve
Rex Schaffner.
Rex Schaffner. Okay,
yes.
Thank you for helping me through that one. If I couldn't get through Will's name, I got no chance with Steve. But he's of SSX fame, one of the brilliant minds behind that franchise. I am a huge skier and boarder, and I've always loved the SSX games. So we'll have a chance to see and play a lot of those games and talk about the development of each, and there'll be great prizes and giveaways. And, of course, all of the proceeds go to Extra Life, which is just an incredible charity that funds the Children's Miracle Network hospitals across North America.
Yeah, and specifically for this event, because we're based in Vancouver, BC, and by the way, this event is open to everybody. It's open to all the students of Vancouver Film School, but it's also open to, and Vancouver Film School is partnering with us to kind of spread the word, which is very kind of you guys. But it's open to the public. And you can come in. We're probably going to open the doors a little bit earlier than we're going to open the doors a little bit earlier than noon. So we're figuring it out if it's going to be 11 or 11:30. But you'll have a chance to play the games. You'll have a chance to meet the people that worked on these games, get stuff signed, take some photos. You might be on the show, and you'll be able to meet some other EP fans, which is going to be super fun. And best of all is that all of the money that we raise through the show, through the link of this on the stream and the website, and any money that's raised here all goes to Extra Life and the BC Children's Hospital, which is so cool.
That's an awesome thing, is that all the money is raised stays locally. I hear some applause. Good.
Yes.
Yeah, and it's what's miraculous is that the figure that really blew my mind was 1 in 10 kids every year in North America actually require some sort of treatment at a Children's Miracle Hospital. So it's amazing how many kids are out there.
You have 3 kids. How many times have you been to a children's hospital?
My little guy has broken a lot of bones for 7 years old. So I'm at the hospital quite a bit.
They know you by your first name. Hey, Matt, what did he break now?
So, I know certainly if you're a parent or, obviously if you have nieces, nephews, cousins, whatever it may be, certainly how important pediatric care is. And just what an incredible organization this is. It's been around for 11 years. And they've raised close to $60 million in that time. So a lot of money has gone into the treatment of a lot of kids across North America. And there's 12 of these hospitals that benefit across Canada. So obviously the money stays here in Canada as well.
Which is amazing, and I'm honored that we get to do this, and we're going to have a very good time. So special guests, some giveaways, we're going to be playing games with developers, and there'll probably be some other people from the development community that will come along with some of these folks as well, and there'll be people here from BC Children's Hospital. Are Extra Life people going to be here as well?
I think some of the guild members, and also I wanted to send a shout out to my friends at the Microsoft Store in the Pacific Center, as they're going to come down and set up a bunch of interactives as well and have some prizing. So cool. It's going to be a real love fest for charity. So we're happy to have you come down and come check it out, meet some developers, and of course for sure meet Vic and myself.
Yes.
Nobody really wants to meet me. Vic is a celebrity. Who are you kidding?
Well, you can absolutely meet Matt Levitan and pick his brain too.
Sure.
But he's going to be on the show on Friday, so we'll dive a little bit more into what we're going to be planning for Saturday. But that's Saturday, noon to 2. And you know where we are. We're in Vancouver, downtown Vancouver at 390 West Hastings. So if you're in the Vancouver area or can come to the Vancouver area, please do. It's open to everybody, and we'd love to see you here. Matt, we've got a lot of show, so I'm going to have to say goodbye now, but I can't wait to see you in person right here, my friend.
I'm waiting to find out what the review was for Outer Worlds, so I'm going to be watching because
I'm shooting that live. I'm shooting that live.
I'm sorry, William Ho. Buddy, I'll give you a big hug when I see you on Saturday. I'm so sorry.
Matt, we will see you soon, my friend.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
All right, you guys. Last night I watched the second episode of Watchmen. Here's my review. Okay, I'm loving HBO's Watchmen series, and it really hit me last night when I was watching episode 2 that as much as this is connected to Watchmen content that we may be familiar with, we're really moving in uncharted territory, and I have no idea where this is going. And because it's connected to Watchmen lore and Watchmen iconography that I am familiar with, this feels really edgy and cool, and it reminds me of a lot of the same feelings that I had when I was reading the books when I was a teenager. I was like, where the heck is this story going? What the hell is going to happen? This is crazy. This is twisted. And that's kind of how the show is making me feel, and I'm loving it.
This doesn't make any sense.
There's lots of homages to Alan Moore's Watchmen comic in this episode, but it's starting to kind of waft in with lots of sly kind of allusions to previous Watchmen characters and Watchmen sort of little myth items, which is really cool. Big focus on Dr. Manhattan in this episode. There is this unbelievably cool play within a play kind of moment in here where we get the origin story of Dr. Manhattan told in a very clever way, which is also incredibly twisted. I'm loving Regina King. I think she's wonderful as our lead here, and Louis Gossett Jr. is completely shining in the second episode. And I love the older Ozymandias played by Jeremy Irons, who is just relishing the role, but also, he's given a lot of good stuff to work with there. It's really fun. And of course, he's got these companions with him that are also expertly performed. And so you're sitting there in this kind of uneasy state, like, what is he going to do to these characters, which he is just so abusive towards? And then you see, like, holy hell rain down on him, and it's unnerving and definitely super interesting, just like the best Watchmen stories out there. Seeing performers like Don Johnson get wrapped up into this intrigue. No one is what they've painted on their face. The fact that Tim Blake Nelson says at one point that he's crying under his mirror mask, like everybody is kind of projecting and wearing a facade in Watchmen. And it really feels like, like a lot of serialized television out there, we are getting a little kind of taste of what is to come at the end of one episode on a cool kind of cliffhanger, and then a lot is revealed in the second episode. It almost echoes a lot of the stuff that I felt watching the first season of Mr. Robot, which is a sensational show. I don't know where this path is leading me.
You curse too much.
It is definitely a show where you get uncomfortable and you sit and you think about the motivations of characters and also the motivations and the creativity of all of the people behind the scenes that are drafting up and putting this story together. Definitely going through some incredibly dark territory. A lot of racism is in full display here. The first episode sort of launched with the devastation of the Black Wall Street in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I didn't know how much was fictionalized, and of course, during the course of the week that episode aired, so much attention has been put on the fact that part of American history has not been fully, represented or well represented. And it was definitely something to talk about. And to see that so much of what was put on screen in the first episode of Watchmen actually happened is just horrifying, and the fact that this is a show that is definitely political, definitely has an agenda, definitely trying to kind of play with the way that we deal with history and media consumption and the truths that are being forced down our throats and whether they are true or not. And it's represented either through allegory within the plot of the show or head on, as is the case in that Tulsa, Oklahoma race riot scene that we saw, is really marvelous.
Okay.
This venture into the unknown is really cool. And so to see some of the mystery kind of get unraveled bit by bit from episode to episode, I am in. I am in on this show, and I can't wait for episode 3. Some fantastic stuff happens at the end of episode 2. It's not the Watchmen comics that we've read. It's not the movie. This is uncharted territory, and it's incredibly well made. I'm in for this. I'm giving episode 2 of Watchmen on HBO a 9 out of 10. I didn't know that this was going to happen, you guys, but in the same week, I'm playing the 2 games that I was most looking forward to in the back half of 2019, which also happened to be the Call of Duty Modern Warfare launch week, one of the biggest games of the year. So it's been insane to bounce from Luigi's Mansion 3 to The Outer Worlds, and then to Call of Duty as well, which I'll have a review for you in a minute here. But The Outer Worlds, I did a kind of a first thoughts piece last week as I started to dive into the game. And of course, I put a lot more time into the game over the weekend. And it is a really, really wonderful achievement from Obsidian. You can tell that the company, maybe didn't have every dollar in the bank to make this, that they learned a lot on some of the other indie games and maybe some of the other Kickstarter-backed projects that they worked on, how to scale development accordingly to whatever budget they were able to pull together. The fact that they used the Unreal Engine also, I think, was a very shrewd move. It made the game work and run quite well out of the gate, which I think has been something that has plagued a lot of the Bethesda engine titles over the last several iterations. Sometimes the imagination that goes into some of the, like the Fallouts and the Elder Scrolls type games, exceed the the finesse that the developers are able to achieve with some of the engine tech that they've been working on. That's not the case here. Also, the overall scope of the Outer Worlds, even though you're traveling from planet to planet, is not out of control. It's a manageable escape. But it is a very, very lovely escape. And there's a lot of great detail in the artwork and the environmental stuff that you're going to see, whether you're, traipsing through an enemy facility or a science lab or, a biodome or caverns. There's some really nice sort of environmental stuff in there, but there's also an incredibly cool steampunk 50s comic book, Bioshockian kind of vibe to some of the the advertisements that you might see or the robots that you might encounter. The game is about choosing your own adventure. And what's really cool about games like this, and it's a lot like what you would find in Bioshock or Fallout or Deus Ex, is that your game is going to be different from my game. The way that you're going to play it is going to be a little bit different from the way that I play it. You make choices and they have repercussions. You encounter characters and you can play with them a little bit, and the dialogue trees are pretty sensational. And like I said in my first thoughts, the acting is great, and there's a sass and a witty kind of sarcasm that sort of permeates everything. And certainly the message is, like we see in a lot of science fiction stuff, that the corporations have overtaken not just a world, but many worlds. And there is this sort of oppressive ownership of people's lives based on their sort of fit inside of the corporate hierarchy. And there's rebellion against it, and there's also complacency for it, and people that kind of try to toe the line in order to survive and to, I guess, get their next meal. And you encounter that, and it kind of bums you out, but it's not the same kind of destroyed, devastated gnarliness that you would find in Fallout. And because of that, I find that the game is a little bit more cheerful. Not that the Fallout games don't offer their own, sense of cheer and their own sense of fun and humor, because they certainly do. And there's an elegance to the Fallout universe, which incidentally was created, the original Fallout universe, by two of the lead people on this game. That came from the Black Isle days at Interplay, which is great. One of them was Leonard Boyarsky, who I interviewed at E3, and they're really, really intelligent craftspeople, and they really try to sort of navigate through the line of being too cynical and too hip and too cool, and also instilling in hope. In fact, you start on a ship called Hope at the beginning. Not to sound too Star Warsy right now, but you start on a colony ship called Hope, and you're trying to, basically save the lives of all of these colonists by navigating through the precarious twists and turns of the story that you're going to find yourself in, and the characters that you're going to have to either ally yourself with or kill. And the combat is pretty solid. It was a little underwhelming combat-wise after playing Call of Duty and finishing that campaign and playing a bunch of multiplayer and then jumping back into Outer Worlds. It's like, well, it's fun to shoot things, but it ain't no Call of Duty. This is really much more a story-based, action RPG where you're meant to soak in the details. You're meant to go into every nook and cranny, and you're meant to loot as much stuff as you can without getting caught if you're stealing. And you're meant to, create allegiances and to get allies, a lot like Mass Effect, where you can have a team of up to 6 people, and you can choose which buddies that you're going to go out and explore a world with, which is really cool. And of course, you create relationships with those people, and your buddies, your allies, will create relationships with some of the other NPCs that you're going to encounter along the way. Or you can just kill everybody and be the scumbag of the galaxy and just try to get all the money that you can. And I guess just wait till something giant comes and punches you to death or something. But I didn't play that way. I played. Generally, I'm on the light side of the Force when I play a lot of these types of games, and so I played that way this way, but this time. But this is a game that really sort of invites you to re-experience it. First of all, you're going to want to because the sort of combat difficulty isn't too high. I found it didn't really matter where I went within this world or these worlds. I felt like I could really my weaponry skills were really high. I upgraded with my skill sets, my ranged weaponry. I got some kick-ass weapons, and I was able to just take on anybody. So I didn't feel like I was getting challenged too much in the combat scenarios. I also was able to purchase a lot of health buffs and things like that as well. But knowing that you can have these branching paths every time you jump back into this game, it makes you want to play it again. It's also not out of control in terms of length. Even though you're going to see a lot and you're going to travel to lots of cool places, it's not as big. It doesn't feel as laboriously large as something like Fallout does. And I don't mean to deride Fallout or Skyrim or Bethesda, because those games are seminal games, and they really kind of tee up an opportunity to kind of scale down and refine and deliver something like this at a scale that's manageable. And I also don't think that the game that's as polished and as done as well as this game is eclipses the work that Bethesda put into Fallout or Skyrim or whatever they've got working on Starfield. But it's interesting now because now this chip is on the table, from a former partner, and with now Microsoft's backing. So if this is a game that a lot of people are playing, presumably, the Outer Worlds, we start to put more worlds into the franchise, and a game like Starfield has to kind of, which I presume is kind of similar to this, maybe with some space mechanics. We don't know anything about that, but that can only mean good things. I was definitely thinking a lot about Deus Ex and how much I missed that game series and how much I'd like to go back. But there is certainly a lot of room in my heart for a game like this. Know that it's not just an action experience. Know that you're going to be reading a lot. You're going to be hacking into terminals. You're going to be wading through conversation. It's as much as of a Voight Kampf kind of experience. The machine from Blade Runner, where you're asked a whole bunch of weird questions that take you in all. It's as much of a simulator of that kind of experience as it is a my plasma sword will slice through you type of experience. It's great, and it's definitely one of the best games of the year, and all of my hopes for it are warranted. I'm going to give The Outer Worlds a 9 out of 10. All right, there was another massive game that I played over the weekend. My weekend was filled with games. Thank you, family. Thank you for letting me play so much. But I took a look at Call of Duty Modern Warfare.
"20 seconds.
Cut the wire exactly when I say, not before.
Ready."
Green wire. In 3, 2, 1. Cut.
I spent the weekend killing a lot of very difficult-to-see bad guys in the brand-new Call of Duty Modern Warfare. You have to put in brackets 2019 because we've already played a Modern Warfare game before. But this time, Infinity Ward was really trying to create some authenticity and something that was much more ripped from the headlines. A game that feels a lot more contemporary and what we see, on battlefield reporting from the news every day. For the most part, I think that they've achieved a lot of their goals with this game.
Good job.
They're certainly trying to, especially with the campaign, evoke a sense of the gray areas and the tough decisions that soldiers and elite forces have to kind of deal with every day as they're faced with terrorist attacks and civilians getting caught in the crossfire. It's harrowing, and there's definitely some moments. I streamed some of this, so I was actually able to play with people and grapple with some of the emotions that I was feeling as I was dealing with a terrorist bomb that goes off in Piccadilly Circus, as I infiltrated an apartment complex and tried not to shoot people that were unarmed and crying babies that got into my way. And I also dealt with the unbelievably brutal scene that I had witnessed at Infinity Ward offices earlier this year, where we see a couple of young kids get caught up in a gas attack and they have to survive the onslaught of these Russian soldiers that are just mercilessly killing everybody in the town, including the parents of these two kids, and it's just horrifying. The camera doesn't pull away, and it's really unbelievably brutal because you cannot help but think of the poor people across this planet that are dealing with that as their reality. There are gas attacks and explosions and innocent victims in just brutal atrocities happening in our lives at a day-to-day kind of basis, and it's flashed across television screens. So to make a game that puts you into the boots of innocents and also soldiers that have to contend with these realities is pretty gutsy, especially because Call of Duty, you could certainly throw terminology that it's like an action picture or like a Michael Bay kind of recreation of what it would be like to actually serve in the military. This time they definitely did not want to do that. They wanted to make us stop and think and feel the repercussions and get a sense of what civilians in war-torn countries have to witness and survive. It's harrowing.
So you are the little devils that killed my soldiers. Отлично.
Is it entertainment? Yeah, I mean, it's still fun. It still leans towards gameplay. But yeah, this is definitely a darker tone, and it's definitely a more contemplative version of Call of Duty Modern Warfare. The move towards creating a tactical force and working together and sort of banding this elite group of soldiers is definitely an interesting story, and because the stakes are high in the game, you immediately care about these characters a lot more than I think in a lot of other more forgettable Call of Duty experiences.
I'll come with you.
This is an ambitious campaign. It's not especially long, but it makes you feel things, which I think is important and valuable, especially for these developers that are working on these cycles on a regular basis, and especially for a game that deals with, real military branches and real soldiers and tries to create a gamified version of what these people would go through. These stories and the medium that Call of Duty, the platform that Call of Duty provides, is an important one to kind of advance this kind of thread further. And I applaud Infinity Ward for doing that. Does it succeed on every level? I don't know, because at the end of the day, it's just a ridiculously fun and addictive video game, and that kind of reduces some of, what's explored in this commentary and in this conversations that these characters have. But I applaud the effort here, and I also want to encourage Activision and its Call of Duty developers to constantly strive for this, to keep working on this, to keep building these great campaigns and these interesting narratives. I'll tell you this, the campaign is so solid that I wanted more of it. And sometimes when I've played the campaigns in Call of Duty games, once I've got to the end, it's like, I never want to see that again. Usually they put a smile on my face, but a lot of times I'm just exhausted and spent, and it's like, okay. But this one was so well done, even if some of the stuff was, incredibly troubling, I wanted to stay with these characters and keep going.
I did not come this far to turn back.
The gameplay was tight, and it's beautiful, and the gunplay is incredible, and the focus and the attention to detail and lighting and special effects and the intricacies of your weaponry and gadgets that you have, including the night vision goggles, which they're making a big point to kind of highlight in this new Call of Duty. All of that stuff was exemplary. You get lost in these moments, even though you're constantly kind of juggling the morality of everything and how you feel about everything. It's pretty sensationally crafted. Some of the best looking visuals I've ever seen. I played this on the PlayStation 4 Pro. I have not looked at this on the regular PlayStation 4 yet, mostly because I'm inundated with stuff to review and get back to you guys on, but I promise I will look at how this runs on the PS4 and at least cover that a little bit on EP Live. But it looks amazing on the PlayStation 4 Pro. The lighting effects, the amount of animation that you're seeing with characters climbing over walls and diving into fights and scouring through these different facilities that you have to get into, or these houses or installations or palaces. It's incredible. The stuff that you see in the woods, the stuff that you see in tunnels and rubble. You're going to be speechless at how beautiful this game is. In totality, when you look at this game, it feels a lot like the Call of Duty World War II experience, which felt comfortable and familiar. This kind of feels a little comfortable and familiar when you get into the multiplayer stuff. It's not that it's not innovating in some really cool ways. One of them is the realism mode, where they drop all of the elements on the HUD and you just have to basically go by your eyes and your ears to figure out where the enemy is. And it's easier said than done if you're in a tunnel and all you've got is your night vision goggles on and everybody is trying to camp and trying to be very stealthy and sneaky about stuff. When you do take out the enemies in realism mode, you really feel like a champion, which is incredible. They also added this new mode called Gunfight, which I think is one of the most addictive multiplayer goodies that I've seen in a game in a long time. It's 2 versus 2. The gun and the loadouts kind of change from round to round, and you're in tight little quarters, and you're basically trying to kill each other as quickly as you can. And if you don't manage to kill everybody on the other team, you've got this flag that you have to get to, and the seconds count down, and incredibly intense. They're just quick little bursts of entertainment, and it's so fun. It's really crazy fun, and you feel like a badass, especially if you punch somebody to death in that mode. It's really damn cool. There's also this really epic ground war game, which I think comes at Battlefield and that franchise head on. There are vehicles in that game and lots of people on the map. It's just incredible to see like just a wave of soldiers rushing into a palace and diving into every nook and cranny and getting sniped at from much better players than you. And that was definitely happening to me. I was getting killed mercilessly by high-leveled people. You know, I was playing it through the launch weekend, but already people are at level 35 or whatever, and they're just badasses at this thing. So in addition to ground war and gunfight and the team deathmatch modes and all the stuff that you would expect, you also have a spec ops mode, which gives you little bursts of story and introduces the operators, and you can keep unlocking new operators, which have different loadouts and different skill sets. And you can continue to handle a bunch of multi-layered missions, which are really fun, basically working with other players in a PvE type of scenario, and it gets incredibly tough when you've got helicopters above you and juggernauts coming at you. Super fun. And the PlayStation 4 has the exclusive survival mode, which is basically a horde mode, which I actually had a lot of fun with too. And it's just unfortunate that even though Infinity Ward has promised all kinds of stuff with no season pass and the cross-platform play, it was really cool to see people with different icons on screen on my PlayStation 4. I was playing against people on PC. Super cool. But the survival mode is exclusive to PlayStation 4 players for a year, which is kind of crazy. And it's a little bit of a mixed message here, especially because it's pretty fun. I will say that I've played so many hours of multiplayer shooters, and I enjoy them, but I'm not that guy that can just sit there for days on end and play the same types of experiences over and over and level up and get better and find the tiny little details that make you a much more superior combatant on the battlefield. I definitely dig it, but I'm the kind of multiplayer player that likes to kind of play for a few hours, put it away, come back to it, play for a few more hours, and you know, these games, they cater so much to the hardcores that just live in this stuff. I just don't have the patience for it. Not just because I'm getting brutalized. I've come to accept that. You know, I sort of reach for the middle point when I'm playing in sort of multiplayer competitive matches, and I'm fine with that. But it's just the constant combat. That's why the campaign has always been so fascinating and interesting for me, because the story bits, they give you that breadth that you need, but also more details about what you want to be doing and how you want to approach this next mission.
This is what I believe in.
Tons and tons of content here to dive into. It's absolutely worth the purchase price. Holds true to the Call of Duty sort of core tenets of stuff that you would expect out of a Call of Duty game. It certainly honors the pedigree that Modern Warfare has kind of laid out for itself. A worthy game of being a new Modern Warfare and sort of assuming that mantle. I think it's really damn good. And it's certainly dealing with hot, messy issues, but that's what war is. It's a damn good game. I'm going to give Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2019 a 9 out of 10. All right, it is the Halloween season, and that means lots of spooky games this week. One of them is the reemergence of MediEvil, handled by Other Ocean and Emeryville, which we love. We had Mike Micah on the show not too long ago, and this is a game I'm dying to play. I haven't started yet because, you know, I had Call of Duty and Outer Worlds and Luigi's Mansion and stuff to focus on. This is on deck, though. Jason is here. Good to see you, my friend. He's playing it a little bit for us right now, so he's going to take us in. He started, and you know, just pipe in if you and cover anything cool. This is Let's Play and Chat. You guys know the drill. We got some time here. Let's talk about what we sort of hit on with the show. If you've got any questions about the games that I've been playing, thank you for the love, Rick Savage, and Dr. Game Love. Thank you for the concern. Dr. Gamelove brought up, I don't know how Vic does it. He plays all of these games. He reviews more in a week than most journalists do in a month. I've always reviewed a lot of games. That's been my job. And that's something that you guys need to kind of remind yourself, right? Like, I don't have another job. This is what I do. I don't have a day job. The day job that I have is trying to, like, put a documentary deal together, or coordinating the interviews, or you know, trying to set up a trip or something like that, and I have been working on that for our Japan trip. But my day job is to play these games. My day job is to play them as deeply as I can and to get as far into them as I can, so that I can tell you how I feel about them and some of the, you know, the aesthetics and the mostly it's how these games make me feel. I think that's what you guys care about. It's not so much the feature set and the stuff that's in the game. All of that you can get from any commercial. What you want to know is how I feel when I play these games. That's my theory, anyways. That's how I look at how we have always produced reviews in the run. That's what I would tell, when Marissa and Sean came on board and they were a kind of a new team working together. I used to talk with them and I'd say, guys, it's everybody can read the back of the box to get the details on the game. We don't need to know how to play the game. We need to know why you want to play the game and how it makes you feel. And that's what I try to kind of convey when I get into the reviews. But that's what I do. I play a lot of these games. Now, my family is very patient with me because they recognize that at this time of year especially, every game comes out. So I do have to take big chunks away from my wife and kid, especially if I'm playing a violent game like I was playing all weekend, so my daughter can't sit beside me and play. I say, no, Daddy's killing lots of bad guys, so you got to go upstairs right now. But they have patience, especially at this time of year. So that's what I do. As I sit and I play a lot of this stuff, and I for my mental health, I take breaks. And get outside, but I also like to review the movies and the TV shows and all that other stuff, so it's not just games all the time, because I think that can drive you a little crazy if it's just games all the time. But thank you for the concern. But yeah, some incredible, like I tweeted today that this is an amazing year for games. Nintendo especially is killing it, but we have been flooded with lots and lots of great titles, and I'm also very, very happy that even though there's some concern about subscription and streaming games and all that stuff, I'm also happy that there's a real awareness that people want parity. They want to be able to, have an account on a game and be able to play at whatever system they have, and they want to be able to play with their friends. So this cross-platform stuff is great. And I also think that loot boxes and microtransactions are definitely under the microscope right now, and there's going to be some positive changes in that direction. And I think some of that is going to be based around this account-based stuff that we've got. And it's something I keep bringing up, but that's my hope. Question from Taz: could you pop into Discord and post the details for Saturday as an announcement? Yes, I will. I haven't been in Discord for a while. You guys know what I've been doing, but I will do that. Let's see. You can't blame yourself for that, man. People have become such tryhards lately. They become obsessed, and it's all they focus on. It's Christopher Keach giving some encouragement to Trigger. 284. Okay, I don't know what that's called. Vic is a huge inspiration and influence on why I started reviewing VR games. Forever grateful to the EP team. That's the VR Grid. Thank you so much. It's very sweet. Comment: thanks for the show, Vic. Unfortunately, due to being in the power outage area of California, I can't stay for long, but hope life resumes soon. Still, I play forever. This California stuff is breaking my heart. EP started with the open arms of California game companies, and being able to access all of these incredible studios. And I've got a ton of friends in Los Angeles and in San Francisco and all up and down the coast. And to see them talking about having to shut off their power because PG&E's infrastructure is so outdated that they could start forest fires, and to see people having to leave their homes and be under forced evacuations is just utterly devastating and heartbreaking. It's a part of this climate change that we're in, and I don't know if a lot of you know, but in Canada there's a bunch of teenagers that are suing the government based on their fears for some of the choices that the governments of the past have been making around climate change. And this news is just around us every single day, but it's good. We got to talk about it. If anybody that is denying climate change, my advice to you is have a sit down with that person and explain to them that this is not normal and we need to get serious about all this stuff. It's good that we're talking about it. It's good that we're addressing it. It's good that it's front and center, but it's also unbelievably heartbreaking to see people at every, like when we're talking about really well-off individuals that have expensive property in Los Angeles or San Francisco, not being able to turn on any device, not being able to enjoy their home because it's all lit by candlelight, or having to leave their home and potentially have it all burned up. It's just unbelievable. But you stay safe, Blade Blur. You follow the instructions that are happening out there. I mean, PG&E is probably just trying to cover their butts, but presumably they know that their creaky architecture can set things ablaze, which is crazy. Sam I Am 111 says, what games can you recall that are best suited at certain difficulties? Has a game been made more well realized when playing at harder or easier modes? That's a great question. Dead Space? What? Brett's Dead Space gets better with more difficulty. I don't play at easy mode. I feel like a bit of I play at regular mode. I play at normal mode. I feel like I've let myself down if I have to switch to easy mode, but there are certainly games that are excruciatingly difficult. Crash Team Racing was one recently, because my skills were so rusty. I hadn't played the PS1 game in ages, and so when I played the PS4 version of that game, I was doing terribly, so I had to knock it down to easy mode, and it became a lot more fun. But yeah, that's a good question, and it definitely relates to the Outer Worlds, which I think you should probably ratchet up when and if you play that game. If you've played Fallout, if you've played, the Elder Scrolls type games, or Deus Ex, ratchet it up a little bit. Play at a little bit harder than sort of the regular mode. I wish that I had done that. Question, are there any streamers who you are going to watch during Extra Life this weekend? Famous Seamus, no. Not because I don't want to, but because if I'm watching a stream, I'm not watching or playing something that I would review for the show. But I can't. I am very happy that so many people get involved and so many people work their butts off to raise some money for this incredibly worthy cause. Generally, I haven't done this. This is the first time that I'm doing this, and I was honored to be asked to do this. And I like the format that we're creating this weekend for the first time, this idea of like crafting a show. And hopefully this is the beginning of something really cool. But I haven't done this historically because, this is the busiest time of the year for me as a reviewer, as somebody that's in this space. And our content is about, staying on top of all of these different games that are happening and releasing. So I work really hard to try to just get far into these games so that I can talk about them. And so I couldn't devote 25 hours to, an older game or a game that I would probably be reviewing on a weekend like this that I wasn't allowed to show. So the game that I should play for 25 hours is not something that I could stream. But I'm psyched now that I am participating in this way, and I hope that I hope we have a great weekend, and I hope all of you can come or watch the stream, and I hope that it leads to more, because I think this is a fantastic organization and a worthy cause. Question from Tyfish: when are you getting Lorne Lanning in studio for just a chill sit-down discussion? Hint: I would love that. I would really love that. There's a ton of people that I want to bring in here. I've been thinking about this a lot. Some of my favorite interviews this year, we've had a lot of good ones, huh? It's been really fun. But some of my favorite ones have been more retrospective, like Tom Kalinske from Sega was, even though the internet connection, there was some kind of hiccup and we were hearing sounds and stuff, and it wasn't formatted perfectly. It wasn't like TV friendly, but I just love that conversation. And I love talking with Mike Micah, who runs Other Ocean, and his company remade this game, which is great. So I'm kind of thinking of more folks like that to have nice long conversations with. Lorne Lanning would be one. He's a wonderful guy, and I loved our interview that we did earlier this year. Marco A has a question. What's your take on the announcement of Death Stranding coming to PC before the PS4 version releases? Seems odd, as you would think it may discourage some people from picking up the game now. Yeah, it's a bit of an undercut for sure, and it also gets you, I did talk about this in the rundown, but it definitely gets you thinking that Sony had a chance to make this exclusive to them and didn't choose that. And why is that? Or maybe Kojima said, no, we want to retain the ownership and the right. Maybe that's, honestly, that could be a very big reason, is Kojima was in a position where he didn't own Metal Gear. He didn't own any of his stuff before. And maybe the decision was this time, I'm owning it. No one else can take this property away from me, and I decide where it's going to go. And maybe the timed exclusivity is a part of that equation. If it's a massive game and incredibly well received and people buy it like crazy, it's his new Metal Gear. It's the new franchise that he's going to be on for a while. And I know he's happy building it. I know because we worked with him, right? So I got to know him a little bit. But he's always loved film. He's loved it. And so now that he's working with filmmakers and actor like celebrities, and it's not that he's been like a fame seeker, but he's loved that world, and he's transitioning into that world in a very real way. And it started with Kiefer Sutherland as Snake in Metal Gear 5, he's making real concerted effort and energy to go into that direction. So if this becomes his new mega franchise, it's kind of making dreams come true for him. And although I have some concerns that Sony didn't lock up the exclusivity, when I really think it through, I think that Kojima probably... I know they worked their butts off on it. So it's tough because I haven't played it yet. So I have no real comment. And even if I did, I wouldn't be able to tell you guys how I feel about it. But I just hope it's awesome. And I hope that he and his people are happy. And I hope that game players everywhere are happy. Jeff Meacham has a question. Hey, Vic, why doesn't WB Montreal just announce the new Batman game instead of just giving us teasers and leaks? I don't know, man. I think that it's very weird what's going on with WB Montreal. We all know they're working on a Batman game at this point, and it feels maybe they're trying something out. They're trying, testing out a new way to sort of create buzz over many, many, many months. But it will be the least big surprise in the video game industry when they say, "Hey, we're making a Batman game and Court of Owls are in it." Like, we're all gonna know, right?
When you have paid, Omar.
Yeah. Blair Farrell says he's going to be watching Greg Seward stream on Saturday. He's playing games from the Genesis and Mega Drive Mini. That sounds amazing. If I had time, I would be watching that as well. The lady and I watch Rooster Teeth 24-hour Extra Life. I think it's on November 8th, around there anyway. Only one we pay attention to. That's really cool. Let's see what we got here. I need to play Maximo. I never did, and I love Ghouls and Ghosts and Gargoyles Quest. Dr. Gamelove. I'm in Maximo. Tommy did the sound effects and I think the music for that game, and I recorded a voice, so you'll hear me in that game if you ever play it, which is crazy. Konami is far from dead, especially when they are making more profit year after year since 2015. Yeah, Konami is... what we are starting to reconcile is the value of these archived collections of titles. And Konami has amazing games in their library. And so they're amazing brands that they can bring out in lots of new games as well. Metal Gear is one of them. And as soon as the games industry, crosses a threshold with being able to reach multiple millions more people than it already does, all of these archives that companies like Konami and Capcom and Nintendo and Sega, there's a lot of people don't play video games. That's what we don't really ever talk about on a show like EP. But a lot of people just don't have time, or they don't want to spend the money, or they just don't care. They don't play, and they don't pay attention to this. But they have memories of Contra or the NES or a Sega title or whatever. And once that stuff becomes so effortless to access and so polished in its presentation and fun and inexpensive, which is what we're moving towards on a scale we've never seen. I mean, there's been, some services and programs and software packages and game stores that have delivered things like this and collections. But, I'm certainly talking about Stadia and the investments that they're making. If that works, and, Google's betting a lot of money that it will, that will inspire a lot of other players in this marketplace, and they have the possibility and the potential to reach a lot of people. And so companies like Konami, who are making a ton of money off of slot machines and pachinko parlors and stuff like that right now, and I think they have like fitness clubs and stuff in Japan. Interesting company, but that game archive is going to be really, really valuable, and a lot of these properties are going to be retrofitted and converted into new IP as well, which is going to be awesome. But very cool to see a game like this come back from the dead, huh?
Yeah, it feels really good to play.
Yeah, I can't wait. That's on deck for me. Okay, you guys, that is it for our show today. We are back on Wednesday with a brand new EP Live, and it is the day before Halloween, so we're going to be planning some special stuff for that episode. And our good buddy Baruti is joining us. You can follow Baruti on his YouTube channel. He's going to be my co-host on Wednesday. We may have a guest as well. I'm still figuring out who that might be, but it's going to be a very fun show, definitely Halloween themed. So please come back for that. It's 4:30 Pacific time, 7:30 Eastern, and it's live here at the VFS Cafe at 390 West Hastings. So if you're in Vancouver, please come down for that. We will see you all in a couple of days. New content will hit the channel tomorrow, so keep your eyes out for that. And if you haven't watched our Luigi's Mansion 3 review, I suggest you do. It's one of the best games of 2019. Thanks for watching, everybody. We will see you very soon. Make sure that you play forever.